Spontaneous speaking video number 10. This time I've decided to make a video on why all of the NFs in MBTI suck or low-key suck or just pretty much overrated. The NFs are known as the idealists of the personality types. There's 4 different temperaments. We have the SJs, ESFJs, ISFJs, ESTJs, ISTJs, such like that. They're known as the traditionalists or the guardians. And we have the explorers or the artisans, which are the SPs, and then you have the rationalists, which are the NTs, and then you have the idealists, which are the NFs. And I know a lot of NFs in my life, and I want to make this disclaimer. I love you. I love you all. I love everybody. I love everyone. I'm an NF myself. But we got to do better. And I've noticed, even from speaking to Jamila yesterday, that we really are overrated. I believe this is some sort of bias due to, I feel like NFs are actually the most interested in personality typing. And so they're the ones who are mostly, especially ENFPs. We have a lot to say about y'all. I have a lot to say about y'all. But they're usually the ones, like NFs are usually the ones that are like writing up most of these MBTI stuff that you see on Tumblr and Facebook, Twitter, all of these pages. If you see that, it's most likely, I would say like 80% of the time, ran by an idealist type. And I just wanted to take an opportunity to sort of level the playing field a little bit and use a little bit of humor with all of this, but still some truthfulness behind it, as to why we are really not as big of a deal as we seem. We're just over glorified and etc. So without further ado, I hope that you guys don't get into your feelings. I will be using examples, and I'm only going to name David because I believe that he low-key gave me permission to, because I already told him that I'm going to be using him as an example as one of the INFJs. But I have a list of at least 5 people for each type that comes to mind. So if the shoe fits, wear it. ENFP. If I had to title you guys, I would definitely put flighty, especially the females. There seems to be a trend of horrible texting and just disorganization altogether. I know numerous ENFPs. They're actually the most common of the intuitives, and it's funny because they all tend to come out in their own individual style. That's that introverted feeling. So even though there's a lot of them, they all are very unique in their own ways. But they all, especially the females, most of them, or all of them, seem to be just extremely flighty. They're horrible with texting you back, and it's not just me being played or anything. This is a trend. Like, I'll be with them, and it's just like they have their phones just like full up, or they like their inbox is full, or they're like unable to just keep track of all the conversations they're having. They'll open up text messages and not get back to it. They have the attention span of a goldfish. Just always looking for the next flashy thing. And I believe that's definitely due to that extrovert intuition being their powerhouse dominant function, which is just always looking for possibilities and just optimism and all of that. And these people are like masters at becoming your best friend in 5 minutes, but then they disappear. But then the funny thing is they'll reappear. See, I would say that the thing that's different about ENFPs as opposed to ESFPs, and mind you, don't get offended, this is just what I've seen to like realize, is that the ESFPs are like, they're very similar to the ENFPs, and like they're socializing with everyone, they're running around everywhere. But the ESFP is just trying to have fun. He or she is not really trying to, all the time know too much about you, whatever. So it turns out that you just see, what to expect with the ESFP. Because it's like, oh, this person's just here to have fun. We go our own way. Oh, the person's back. We're gonna have fun. We're just gonna have a good time. We don't have to have no deep conversations or whatever. You know, we're just gonna have a good time, and they're gonna go on their way. And I'll see them again next time I'm ready to have a good time. But the ENFPs, they'll come to you, and they'll have fun with you like the ESFP would. But then at the same time, they're trying to get to know you. They're trying to, connect with you because they're intuitives, they're NFs, they're idealists. And idealists, the idealist personality types, they're known to have the most need for connection with people. And so as an ENFP, they're trying to connect with you. They're trying to draw you in, and they're trying to just get to know you. They're trying to really just become somebody that's unique and special in your life. But then, after they become your best friend in 5 minutes, they're gone. My younger sister, she's an ENFP, and I grew up with her. She's what, not year 18 now, right? I believe that she's 18, and she's just, her attention span's just all over the place, and she has a lot of friends, but at the same time, it's like, how do you manage all of that? And I guess I can see how they manage it is because even though it's kind of like a paradox. They're like building that friendship with you, but then they go off somewhere else to build a friendship. So if I had to end this with putting some type of analogy behind it, I would say that ENFPs with friendships is like architecture, I believe that's the word. They're building a friendship. So imagine a building. It's like they'll have 4 different buildings that they have tried to build. Mind you, they don't even have a schematic or blueprint. They just show up there. They're like, hey, this looks like a good spot to start building something. So they start building with you, and then they're like, I'm getting kind of bored. Let me move on to that building. Start building that. Okay, I'm kind of bored over here. And you go over there. And then they'll go to the last one, and then they'll come right back over, and they'll cycle that again. And it just seems really, they'll just, basically, ENFPs, I would title them as flighty. They appear in your life, and they become your best friend, and then they leave, but then they'll come back, and then they'll leave, and then they'll come back, and then they'll leave. It's just something that we're gonna have to all get used to. The INFP. Now, these creatures are beautiful. They have such vivid imaginations, and they are definitely idealists. Sometimes they're even titled the idealists themselves because they perceive the world in a way that is just simply rainbows. And it's kind of like the ENFP, only since they're introverted, they have their first function as introverted feeling. The INFP is perceiving the world, and then everything that it's perceiving the world into, they're asking themselves, how do I feel about this? Does this make me feel good? Or how do I feel about this? How does this make me feel? How does that make me feel? What do I feel about this? Everything is how do I feel? How do I feel? How do I feel? Not in a selfish way, but just more of building their moral compass and their authenticity. Now, the downside to having introverted feeling as a dominant function is that because you're always wondering how do you feel about something, it becomes very easy to become very sensitive. And sooner or later, these INFPs, they start to, especially being intuitives, not only are they over-idealizing so many things in life, like relationships especially, and friendships and all of that, thinking that they're living in this kind of la-la land dream world that they're perceiving, but then on top of that, if something small happens that shatters this kind of Truman Show reality that they live in, all of a sudden they're since they spent so much time building that introverted feeling, they're really offended. And it's man, you're so sensitive, And I've seen this a lot with especially the INFP females in my life. And I think the most annoying thing about INFPs, especially the females, the unhealthy females, are just not the very developed ones, the ones that just resonate too much with their introverted feeling and not enough with their extroverted intuition to understand all of the nuances, is the simple fact that they if the ENFP is known to me as flighty, I would title these ones, the INFPs, the angels or victims, because their introverted feeling, when unhealthy or when they're resonating too much with that introverted feeling, tends to only give them the perspective of their own. They're unable to see other people's perspective because they're just like so wrapped up with how they see the world, how they view the world, how they have perceived the world, how they perceive friendships and relationships and such. And so if you try to come at them sideways with anything, they're like, no, this is your fault. No. And they'll only present to you what they see. Now, when they've developed their secondary function, extroverted intuition, they're capable of understanding the different sides and perspectives of how things could look. But most of the time, it's just, these are the people that literally, it's always your fault. Like I don't see where I went wrong here. This is your fault. And that's because they're just perceiving it in this way, and they're thinking about how they feel. They resonate so heavily with how they feel. And so, man, I have an INFP friend, and this person is always like for years. I don't even know why. Sometimes I still deal with the person, but this person will always come for me and get upset with me for not really texting the person often. And it's like, well, you're the one who left me with the dry response or left me on red or, etc. But then next thing you know, you're like, oh, but you never talked to me. You never. It's like, and I will try and apologize to the person, or I'll try and like make up with the person. I'll accept the responsibility, whatever, just so we can make up. But when I point out, like, well, you're the one who didn't respond to me, or you're the one who said that you'll be right back and never came back. Why don't you text me? Oh, the phone goes both ways or whatever. They don't hear it. All they see is what you did wrong, and that's what they're gonna resonate with. And so I would say that's definitely like the most annoying thing about INFPs and why they are over-idealized in that way, and they suck. They're the ones who tend to idealize people, but they're also idealized in this fashion, and they suck in that way. The INFJ. Oh, you special snowflakes. I'm only 1% of the population. Well, just because something is rare does not mean that it's great. I mean, there are rare diseases out there that kill people. Just keep that in mind. The words that I would use to describe the sucky INFJs would probably be rude and weak tact. And I say this because from many of the INFJs that I know in my life, I've just noticed that actually Jamila's the one who pointed it out. And I even asked a whole bunch of INFJs, and they confirmed this. I've noticed that they tend to jump into conversations, and they're the ones who are usually not like there's people who like sit back and try and wait for the conversation or whatever and see when they can interject. But INFJs are not like that most of the time. I would say the generalization for the INFJs is more of they're the types to just hop into your conversation and be like, hey, what are you guys talking about? Or are you guys talking about MBTI? Are you guys talking about this? Or blah, blah, blah. I'm an INFJ, by the way. And it's like, oh, okay, that's nice, cool. Like, why did you interrupt the whole conversation just to do that? Could have just sat back a little bit and listened, perceived before hopping in and being like, oh, by the way, and just like add on. That's the way, it's kind of like jump rope and double dutch, just sit back, see where it's supposed to come in, and then hop in, and the rope's still going. But if you just like jump in, like, hey, what are you guys talking about in the middle of conversation, then it's like you just stopped one of the double dutch ropes and you stood in the middle, and then now they have to get back into motion to get you back in there. That was just a really off the top of the dome type of metaphor that came to mind. But yeah, that's how I tend to see a lot of the INFJs in my life. Like, they just have a tendency to interrupt. And the ones that I've spoke to, that confirmed this, they found it very funny. and they said that it's just because their dominant NI is so, happy and excited for what the conversation is about or something, and so they just want to like hop into it. It's like, okay, cool, but you definitely need to work on that that auxiliary FE so that you can understand social cues and social constructs such as waiting to get into a conversation and everything. I would also say that they have weak tact, as in David, for example. David, he's doing a lot better now, way much better. But I remember when I met David back when I was 2 years old, but David is an INFJ, and one thing that's definitely different with me and him, and he's been working on it, like I said, is that he tends to go to his introverted intuition and introverted thinking loop, which is, they call this NITI loop, and it's skipping the middle function, which is extroverted feeling. And so that loop is more of like being more analytical and cold and just straight observance and not really considering the feelings behind it. So there's been numerous times where I would tell David something, just for like venting purposes or something, and I already know the solution or whatever. I just wanted to like vent about it. And David is like, well, then you should have did this, or why didn't you just do this? And it just like, I know this, okay? Like, whoa, like, where's the sensitivity? Where's the empathy? And I would say that INFJs who are in that NITI loop, they forget, oh yeah, I'm supposed to consider the person's feelings. Oh yeah, I forgot that there's a nicer way to say this. Oh, they probably already know this and they just want some emotional support. And that's something that, thank you, David, for working on that. I don't think I've had a problem with you doing that in a long time. But if you're an INFJ who's struggling with that, please fix that. Another thing that I've realized about certain INFJ in my life is that, I think this will go underneath the rude categories again. They will, probably even in both, like weak tact and rude, but they will hit you up and they'll act like, they're trying to see how you're doing, but there's always an ulterior motive. And I think that's the difference between introverted, that's definitely introverted intuition as a dominant. Like, they always have something planned and they know what they're doing, like, all the time. Like, I feel like INFJs never do not know what they're doing. They are very meticulous in everything. All they do is future pace. So, yeah. But anyway, saying that, they will hit you up and act as if like, oh, like I had a friend the other day, and this has happened numerous times, but I'm just gonna say the most recent example, hit me up like, what's up though? And I've been hitting up this friend for months, actually, every 2 weeks or so, just to like check up on this friend and see how they're doing and everything. I was trying to set an example, like, hey, the phone goes both ways, but I'm trying to show you that not only does the phone go both ways, but I care. Like, I want to show you that I am a good friend. I'm here for you and everything. I don't see you often, but you still come to mind. I pray for you. I'm here for you. But this friend never hits me up first unless if this friend needs something from me. Like whether it be advice, insight into a situation, or whatever. And I mean, I don't have anything against this friend at all. I highly doubt that this friend is even watching this. But if you are, hey, love you. This friend hit me up the other day, like, what's up though? And I was immediately like befuddled because I had just spoke to this friend. I hit her up first 2 days before, and I was like, just having that normal conversation, that normal catch-up conversation and everything. So I was wondering, like, oh, maybe this person's, like, trying to, like, actually see how I'm doing for once. So I said something, when you're having conversation with text, like, I try not to be dry. I gave this friend some things to work with, and this friend just, like, dismissed it. It's like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Well, I actually had a question. And I was like, I knew there was something behind what you were saying, you know? Like, don't don't hit me up and act like you care about what's going on in my life or whatever. If you have a question, maybe it doesn't work with other people. For me, just hit me up and just be like, hey, by the way, I have a question. Sure, what's up? Like, because then when you hit me up saying what's up, though, and everything, it's making me think that we're about to have a leisure conversation and all of that. Like, oh, this person is genuinely interested in all of that. And so I feel like that's something that INFJs suck at, people, which is ironic because they're so glorified online for being so amazing with people. I can read you and all of that. No, and on top of that, I have to mention that most of you that think that you're INFJ, I highly, highly, highly doubt that you are. And that's just sad truth. Like, especially if you took the test and it told you that, oh gosh. But that's another video for another day. Let's move on. And last but not least, the marvelous ENFJ. So, quick backstory. I went ahead and I did the ENFJ video on the original day where I created the other segments. But after Jamila and David looked at it, exactly what I feared would happen happened, where they both stated individually that they believe I went a little bit too lenient with the ENFJ. Plus, I didn't have any examples to give like I did with the other ones. So I'm going to try and redo it right now. So many titles come to mind with this type. Manipulators, busybodies, cult leaders, meddlers. See, because the ENFJ leads with extroverted feeling, they naturally pick up on social cues. They spent their whole entire life naturally understanding how they affect other people and how other people affect them and how other people affect each other. So due to this, the ENFJs are usually very, very skilled in knowing exactly how they want to be seen in the world and how they can make that happen. So I realized that the reason why it was hard for me to even go so hard on the ENFJ was not because I'm biased against them. Being an ENFJ myself, I promise you that was not it. But it's mainly because, well, one, I actually don't know that many ENFJ. And being an ENFJ myself, it's a lot easier to observe other people as opposed to like just observing myself despite all the personal development. But on top of that, like I said, I don't know many ENFJ, but the few that I do know, I don't even know them personally. And ENFJs are one of the only two types that lead with extroverted feeling. And extroverted feeling happens to be something that's all about appearing in the world as good, as great-natured, as following social cues, understanding how people interact and interpersonal connections and all of that. And so that being said, a lot of ENFJs, if not all of them, tend to be, they're known as the most likable type because they'll draw you in with this great personality, and they naturally is not forced or anything. They naturally know how to present themselves in the world and get people to like them. But you won't really be able to understand, or like you won't really be able to see the flaws within them or get that annoyed with them unless if you actually have a deeper relationship with them. And I'm sure that my younger sister, Jamila, David, and other people who are really close to me, they'll definitely be able to point out a lot of the flaws that I have that many other people would not really know. The ENFJs, because of this extroverted feeling, they literally receive their gratitude from helping people and getting to their needs. And not just like how an ESFJ would, but ENFJs are more of like, how's your spiritual life? Or how can I emotionally help you? Everything has to do with inside, you know, the abstract world and all of that. They want to be able to help your soul. And sometimes it's practical things as well. But a lot of times ENFJs do not realize that people don't want to be helped. They don't want your help. I can do it myself. They're the types to always be like, I know what's best for you. And a lot of people don't usually want to know what is best for them. A lot of people do not believe that you know what is best for them. But the thing with the ENFJ is that since they not only receive their gratification from helping people and satisfying their needs and, you know, just being proactive in that area, they will also force that situation, and this can come out as manipulation, whereas I guess a perfect example of that would be my friend David and my other friend actually had a sort of awkward relationship where friend B thought, let's just call this friend Sarah. Sarah thought that David disliked her. And Sarah had at one point said something to David that rubbed David the wrong way. And then David told me, and I was like, oh, wait. And I went back to Sarah and I asked Sarah, hey, why did you say this to David? And then she's like, oh, I didn't even mean to say it like that. I was just saying blah, blah, blah. But I knew that he didn't like me. And I'm like, oh no, that's not it. That's not really how it was going. And I basically persuaded Sarah to go and apologize to David and explain the context of what she meant from that. And then on top of that, you know, basically just all of that type of stuff. David ends up hitting me up saying, Denzel, did you talk to Sarah? And I was like, yes. But Sarah always believed that you didn't like her. And so I had to, you know, I just couldn't deal with you two, the animosity between you two, or the awkwardness between you two. So I took it upon my power to make this happen in that way. And David said, although he knew that I had very good intent, it made him feel as if I was controlling and I was just not regarding his feelings. And so I would say that ENFJs are very annoying in that way, where they will meddle in your lives. They always feel like they know what's best for you, and they will try and make what's best for you happen. And what they have to realize a lot of times is sometimes, even though you do know what's best for someone, you have to let them figure out what's best for them on their own. Or you have to use that introvert intuition to put yourself in their perspective, so that even though you do make this happen, you have to think long term, okay, but how will this affect it? Yes, these two might make up, but now this person will probably feel like I'm controlling them. If David was not so aware of the type of person I am, then he probably would have resented me. And he even said that he doesn't want me to continue to do this because then he'd probably resent me. And so that is definitely one way that ENFJs can be extremely annoying and manipulative in that manner. Although it's all for good intent, it's still annoying. And we should give people their space. There's boundaries that are to be set. And every ENFJ watching, you should probably know this. There's a couple of ENFJs in my class, and one of them is really chill, relaxed, everybody seems to like her. And the other one, she also seems to be somebody that everybody likes. But I would say the one thing that's annoying about her, not only that she claims she's INFJ, when it's so obvious to me that like you seem way more extroverted than an INFJ normally would be, but one thing that I would say is annoying about her is that she's such a busybody. Like as soon as she walks into class, it's like she's just on radar for whatever is what she's supposed to be doing or how she can help someone. It's like she's thirsting for helping somebody. She's the type of person that you'll ask the teacher a question about graduation or something, or when something is due, and she's like alert, like an antenna right there, and she's like ready to answer your question for it. It's like, excuse me, I asked the teacher, not you. Please relax. ENFJs are actually extremely similar to the INFJs in the fact that they are very insightful. They have the same two functions, just like reverse, and that makes it is where the ENFJ, since they lead with extroverted feeling, they're more people savvy. And this is where they get their finesse from. And this is also where they get their manipulation from. Because ENFJs are the type of people that use other people to reach their goals in life. They have this mindset where it's like, well, if you're not helping me build this ideal world, if you're not helping me reach my goals, if you're not helping me do this, if you're not allowing me to help you, then what are you doing in my life? And they will think that. You might not know, but that's how they think, because for them, people are their tools. But the good thing about them is that since they're extroverted feelers and they're trying to get everybody else to their goals as well, but it's kind of like a paradox. They receive gratification from helping you reach your goals, but they could also be just doing it for themselves. I think that's pretty much all that I have to really say about them. Like I said, I don't really know many in my life, and I'm not close to enough of them to actually critique them, and besides just looking at myself and the things that I've read. But I would definitely just restate that they are fully capable of manipulation. They're fully capable of finessing you, which I guess is another word for manipulation. But the heaviest thing that can be extremely annoying is their controlling meddling. Like, just, I know what's best for you, listen to me, you need to take my advice, and just coming into your life and trying to run things without your permission. ENFJs, please stop. I would say, word of advice to you is always make sure that, it's kind of like IMs, always make sure that you have your availability sign on. You know, like when you're texting someone, or when, like back in the day when you're doing instant message and it said, I'm available, always make sure that's on for people to see. And every once in a while you can like probe a little bit, but don't just enter into their life and try and like fix their lives up. Usually, even if things end up going well and you actually did know what was best for them, the simple fact that you did not ask their permission, or you just went in and controlled everything without them giving you the permission to do that, is annoying enough for things to be just as if they did not go well after all, especially for you, and then you're in trouble. On Google, you can find a link that says 24 people share the one thing they wish the ENFJs in their lives understood. And I've taken the opportunity to list about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of those 24 things that were kind of annoying or seemingly negative in their connotation from these different types. Not everyone is as vulnerable to you as you think. Please stop thinking you know more about others than they know about themselves. INTP. You worry too much about people. I'm actually really quite qualified to solve the issues that come my way. INTJ. I actually don't like it when you interrogate me with my personal life. That's my job. Fellow ENFJ. We love you, but your motherly instincts can be suffocating to some of the more perspective types. I know it's well-intentioned, but not everyone wants to be told what the safest, most rational option is all the time. Sometimes it's best to love some of the freer types at a bit more of a distance. ENFP. Sometimes you guys annoy the hell out of me with all your questions about my heart and soul. You try to understand me, but the more you probe like that, the more I want to push away. You need thicker skin. And somehow, I still love yet beyond words without you. I wouldn't have much faith in the human race's capacity for goodness. Sorry for the mixed message there. ISTP. Please don't plan out all of my free and unscheduled moments for me and back me into a corner to hang out with you. ISTJ. And that's all I have to say about all these types. Like I said, I love all of you. I love all of you. This was just to be some constructive criticism, something fun, some things that I've realized about the types, and I hope that you guys had a little laugh from this, or you had at least a few moments of like, oh wow, that's really true. Maybe you'll become more aware of that in your own lives and you'll start to work on it. Maybe you'll be more understanding of the other people in your life that are actually fitting those types and everything, but who knows. But make sure that you like, comment, subscribe. Let's make this a conversation just like any of the other videos, and hope that y'all enjoyed it. Done.